spills to Bailey. Bailey's already kicked the goal from there. He breaks loose. Miracle goal. What a goal from Bailey.
And I declare the winner of the 2023 Brownlow Medal, Lachie Neale of the Brisbane Lions Football Club.
The Queens of the Jungle, they reclaim their throne. The Brisbane Lions are AFLW premiers for the second time. Back to Rayner. Rayner from 55. Is this the perfect response? Bang! Ashcroft out of midair. Oh, you are kidding me!
My God!
Something unbelievable from the kid. That is ridiculous. We've got a top-end nude out there in Robinson, and he is loving it.
Oh, he's text.
He's almost flexing.
Here's
Charlie again. Cue that song back up.
The Brisbane Lions Fancast back for 2024. It has been a hot minute since we've been behind the microphones, and now we're behind the cameras as well. Some updates on the podcast coming very, very shortly. But g'day if you're joining us for the first time. I'm JB, and joining me is Patrick. Mate, how have you been? How's things? That's always a plus. I'm hoping for neither of those things at this stage. Quick update, still have not found it in me to watch any sort of replay of the 2023 Grand Final. I don't, honestly, I don't think I ever will. No, the closest I've come is I looked at a couple of highlights to package together for the intro video / opening montage there. So that's as close as I've come. Watch that Zach Bailey goal again, and maybe the Charlie Cameron goal. But look, honestly, it still just makes me a bit sad. Sure. The tide's turning though. The women obviously won their second AFLW flag, and there was another Queensland win as well. So I think the Brisbane Heat won the Big Bash League. So two teams that lost in the final last year. So if you're into that weird sort of Queensland sports superstition, the ones that lost and are now winning, so I'm prepared to run with it at this stage. No thanks. Yep. Yeah, I mean, all the talk so far has been promising. You know, come back in the best shape, running PBs, all that sort of stuff. They're hungry. Good to, I guess, hear from Fags and others that they reviewed the game fairly closely after and were fairly honest about the situation as well, players and coaches alike. So we've seen what happens if, you know, you handle a grand final loss poorly. So from the outside looking in, it sounds like they've done all the right things. So hopefully it can mean good things. Good. Yep. Well, I mean, we're going to get to our questions later on in the show, but what I've really enjoyed since Fagan's taken over is our off-seasons are really quiet. You don't hear much at all, good, bad, otherwise. You look on the other side, you look at Melbourne, and it has just been very Clayton Oliver heavy. Dan McStay's done an ACL. And I'd rather not have that distraction at all. So, I mean, fine by me if that's the case. out of sight, out of mind. Yeah. I think Phil Davis said that as well, so yeah. Fine by me. Fine by me. Sure. You've got the credibility. You got a bit more Fitzroy gear than I would have thought, to be fair. Yep. One of the greats. Yeah. Perfect segue there. Yes, we are now doing this on video form as well. So a couple of updates for the podcast for 2024. We've got a brand new website, BrisbaneLionsFancast.com.au. You can have a bit of an explore of that. All the links that you need will be there. We're also going to start a bit of YouTube action. And our Patreon has kicked off for 2024 as well. So things you can expect for that. It's a $5 a month fee, and I understand cost of living at the moment is a pain in the ass, which is sort of why we decided to start it, to try and keep the lights on and put some money back into the show. We got one patron so far, one paying up member. I think it's your mum. Yeah, so Mandy's jumped on board. Yep. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a video form of the podcast each week that will be jumping up on Patreon. I think I might do this first one, and just chuck it up on YouTube so everyone can see as a bit of a free taster. That's it. And if you decide that's how you want to use, how you want to absorb the podcast moving forward, then you can join on the Patreon as well. Try and make it fairly competitively priced. We're also going to hopefully facilitate a few more giveaways and stuff this year, so anyone that joins the Patreon is going to get automatic entries into the raffles and double entries as well. And a bit of extra video content each week as well, whether it be sort of when the teams come out or, post-match sort of gut reaction stuff as well. So if there's stuff you want to see on the Patreon that you would like to see, if you're, coughing up some money, then we'd love to hear it as well. And the other exciting news is we've got some sponsors on board for 2024 as well. So a huge shout out to Hop On Brewery Tours, hoponbrewerytours.com.au, and Crisp Communications, crispcoms.co. We'll chuck all the links. You can find them on our website, brisbanelionsfancast.com.au. But a huge thanks to those guys for jumping on board for 2024 and helping out and supporting us this year. It's absolutely fantastic. And Hop On Brewery Tours, if you want to learn a little bit more and visit some craft breweries across Brisbane and Gold Coast, then head to their website, book yourself a tour. And Crisp Communications, they can help you anything if you've got a small business, with your marketing, or even if you've got a podcast you want to get off the ground as well. They can help you with that, from digital marketing, some graphic design, brochures, all that sort of stuff. Crisp Comms will sort you out there. Abby and the team jumping on board. So a huge shout out to those guys for 2024. So thanks so much, and that's, I guess, updates for the podcast. Oh, we've got our first giveaway right off the bat. Bang, double pass for the Q Clash up for grabs as well. We'll chuck all the information on how to enter that at our socials. If you just look for BL Fancast, we might do a bit of a raffle to kick things off. So a double pass to the Q Clash up for grabs straight off the bat. How would you bloody be? Jeez. Wow, okay. Starting off with some vitriol towards Dimmer. Well, we do come up against them on Thursday in the sort of unofficial scratch match. It'll be kind of looking forward to getting a look at the Gold Coast under Damien Hardwick, and obviously there's a lot of talk about Gold Coast this year. Finally, this will be the year that they make the final, so I think there's big expectations in those guys, so it'd be good to get a first look at them next week. Yeah, it's um, yeah. I mean, it is probably in the ballpark for sure. I mean, guys come off taking Richmond from the bottom of the barrel to 3 premierships across 4 years to go to a failing club and try and resurrect them. So the pressure's on him to do it again without Neil Baum and Peggy O'Neill around him, and like he's got a decent list to work with. So well, it remains to be seen. Yeah, fair enough, indeed. Um, been a long off season, a seriously long off season, I suppose. From our position, having to deal with Collingwood fans rubbing it in our face over the last 3, 4, 5 months or whatever it's been. But some notable stuff over the last couple of months. Kitty Coleman signed on again, which is great news. Still waiting on the Hugh McCluggage signature, which will hopefully be coming around very shortly. But probably the most notable is the passing of Nicole Duncan, who we have spoken about on the podcast before, as I guess affectionately known as, if you didn't know, yeah, go on, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, crazy. And she's a big deal and a well-loved person when, Michael Voss, who it must be balls deep in preparing for a Carlton season coming ahead when there's massive expectations on them. Like all sorts of past players have, expressed their condolences and everything for her passing. She just touched so many lives over the 30 plus years, and the story that I hear the most about her is when we made the 01 grand final and Ansett Australia went bust, and we had our flights booked via Ansett, and she was the person responsible for going, well, shit, we've got to get you guys down to Melbourne at the last minute, and organised buses and charter flights and all that sort of stuff to make sure it all happened. And that's imagine over the last 30 years how many people have come and gone through front office, back office at the Brisbane Lions, but she's obviously had a huge impact on the greats of the club and everyone. And even Fag says over however many football clubs and however many years he's been working in football, like she's the one that's done her job the best and the most dedicated and all that sort of stuff. So it's it is sad. Yeah, 100%. Um, I mean, as we will touch on as we get to our questions, it has been, pretty quiet, as has been the sort of status quo for Brisbane over the last 4 or 5 years, which is fine. I think Kane Corn sort of talked about it maybe last year or the year before. He said, you don't hear much out of Brisbane in the off-season. And, largely due to the fact that we're not a Victorian club, and so it is a bit of out of sight, out of mind. But, for a club where the expectations are so high this year, like, grand final is par, and I think a lot of people are expecting, well, Brisbane's probably got to win the premiership for it to be not a failure. Like, those are where the expectations are, and you don't really hear much out of, the Brisbane camp in the off-season is... I think it's a good sign, like, personally. Yeah. Yep. It probably is a little bit like that, and rightly so. The focus, especially in AFL media, being Victorian centric, a lot of it is on Carlton, one of the biggest clubs in the country. Made a prelim last year. Can they go that step further? Vossi signed for another 2 years. They've got the list to do so. St Kilda, where are they going to be at? Richmond, new coach. Melbourne has had a turbulent off-season. How are they going to bounce back? What are Essendon going to do this year? Is it going to be all hype and then they're going to shit the bed again? So, yeah. Yep, that's right. Yep. It, it is a tough draw, and out of all the travel that we may or may not have to do, the one thing you want is more experience at the G, because it's obviously been our Achilles heel over the last however long. So at least an extra game or two would be huge, but it wasn't to be. So still just the two, and hopefully feature there again in September. But it's a fair way off, I suppose. Well, I mean, it'd be 11 or 12, yeah. It's usually around 11. It's usually sort of the half the season you get at home, and then wherever else. Righto. Yep. Yeah. That's right. Yep. Yes, specifically by Errol Goulden. Yep. Yep. Well, we did get dacked by both of those teams, I suppose, throughout the year. Yeah, not a great record round one, which has got me worried for round zero, opening round, or whatever it's called in a couple of weeks' time. Maybe. I am a little bit nervous, obviously, yeah, and Carlton are round 2-1. Freo over in Perth. Yeah, and before a week 3 bye. Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there was a few. Oh, with a bit of anger in there for the Gold Coast game, and more sadness with the Melbourne game. Y- y- Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've had 2 intra-clubs so far. Not much really to come out of the second one, because it was fairly heavy rain in Brisbane for the Friday, so it sounded like it wasn't exactly a spectator-worthy sort of event. With Neil being out, Bez taking a seat. Looks like Cammy Rayner had a fair amount of time in the midfield and played quite well. The first game though, Darcy Gardner moved up forward, and new draftee Logan Morris kicking I think 7 or 8 between them. So that could be bloody interesting. Yeah. 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 We're only one injury away from Hitwood or Danaher to really going scratching our heads going, what do we do now? So yeah. I mean, you never know. Yeah, I'm, I'm very interested to see if round 1 you see Darcy Gardner heading to the goal square alongside Joe and Eric. And, by the time that the year wrapped up last year, we sort of, as a fan base, had all decided, 2 tall forwards and then Cam Rayner as the sort of pseudo third tall was the way to go. We didn't need that third tall in Gunston, and it was, addition via subtraction. But having said that, if we still had McStay on the list, he would have played every week regardless, and it wouldn't have even been a discussion. So if we can get output from a sort of medium tall like a Darcy Gunner, and it feels weird to say that, if we can get consistent output from someone like that, I think that probably is where Fagan would have the team. Yeah, I'm here for it. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Oh, he's not that. I think. Yeah. He's been on the list for a couple of years, and he's sort of a ruck forward, and but probably more a forward. So he would play a similar role to Danaher, I suppose, like mostly forward, pinch hit in the ruck. Still not quite there yet, though. Yeah, we're pretty slim. Pretty slim. Like, you've probably listed them all so far. So we're now that... Yeah. I think with the way our backline is shaped at the moment with... our backline depth is Harris, Payne, Duday once he's in the team, Lester, Gardner, and then Joyce is, 6th in line. So... Sure. Whatever. I'm just saying, if Thursday night rolls around and I see D Joyce on the team sheet, things have gone horribly wrong. No. Yes. Well, they might shuffle it around because obviously Dizzy was in the grand final team. You'd imagine Payne takes that spot. Do they go the 3 talls? Lester, is he, has his preseason been? He's sort of a bit of an anomaly at the moment. Like, we never thought he'd be in the team this time last year, and then best 22 each week, which was crazy. We've also got your man Jackson Pryor, who has been working for another year, another off season, another pre-season under his belt. So, is he ready to come back in? Noah Answorth is almost the forgotten man at this point. Me too. We all do. Like, everyone loves Noah's, and he just couldn't get a crack last year. And then Jimmy Madden, who managed to get some senior games last year as well, inexplicably. Yeah. Yeah, we have McKenna, Joyce, Jimmy Madden. Yeah, I mean, you've got Orla in and Dunn in the AFLW, so there's a fairly highly Irish contingent across the Brisbane Lions. A bar fight? I don't know. Yeah, that's a huge generalisation. That's fine. We've definitely said more heinous things on the podcast before. Yeah, so we've got a couple of options for that halfback role. Cal Archie has played down there before as well. Carter Michael still on the list if he's not recovering from another injury. Like he's played halfback, so that role's more easily filled. I think we've got a fairly decent depth when it comes to our back six, back seven. But yeah, up front, it's especially in the keys, that's where we lack a little bit. But we saw it with Collingwood last year. You don't have to have an elite key forward to win a premiership. Helps if you've got an elite small forward to turn it on grand final day, like Bobby Hill. But you know. Mate, I'm going to be having nightmares about Bobby Hill for the rest of my life. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if we're going from grand final day, are we talking for round one or just generally speaking for the season as a whole? Yeah. I mean, I'm probably, it's largely going to be the grand final team from last year. I think that our core is relatively set. Payne comes in for Gardner, and Ashcroft comes in probably for Dev, maybe for Zorko. Like, who knows what sort of year Zorko's going to have? Is it going to be a Daniel Rich style where he plays? How is his body going to hold up? Is he going to play every game? Is he going to play on and off? Is he going to... Yeah, I think they might. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was the name I was going to throw up. I would... Yeah. I yeah. 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 Well, and Dunkley... Yeah. No, it's... There's a lot of things burned into my brain, unfortunately. I mean, Dizzy comes out for Payne, obviously, and I think and Leicester holds his spot for round one, but I think Leicester gets dropped when Duday's fit and ready. Depending on who we're playing, we might come up against teams where we don't need three talls down back, and we might need a bit more versatility in Leicester. Other than that, not too many changes. Yeah, Ashcroft comes in when fit, and then Dev goes to sub, or Zorko goes to sub. Would be it for me. Other than that, you're not changing too much. And we will get to the show in our like breakout player of 2024. But just like people like Zach Bailey and Rayner, a bit more consistency week in, week out. Like they've obviously got huge potential, and we've seen it. Bailey had a fine final series. Obviously, those goals in the grand final. But rather than do that once every 4 or 5 weeks, once every 2-3 weeks. Kitty Coleman, great final series, but his fitness, if he's worked on that, he can run out games longer and really take charge of that back line. And so improvement will come from within the team. How's Ashcroft going to come back from his knee? Who knows? It took Rayner a bit, took Hipwood a bit. It can take players a bit. This is Dude's second knee, so how's he going to come back? It's there's a lot of variables, but I think you're right. There is going to be a lot of improvement from some players that have got room for it. Yeah. Yeah. And we've got players that have had interrupted pre-seasons, like Neil's been out with a groin. He had groin surgery. Berry hasn't done much. He's had shoulder surgery for the upteenth time. McKenna, obviously, he's had a bit of a strain. Dev had that wrist surgery and then I think complications afterwards, so he hasn't had, a full pre-season as well. So, what effect's that going to have on their game? We saw after Lockie won the Brownlow in 2020, he had an interrupted pre-season the year before, and the drop-off was, I'm not going to say significant, but it wasn't the Brownlow year again. So it might take him a bit to get going. And even McCluggage last year, we spoke about on the show, his first half of the year was... Yeah. Yeah. Maybe. 8 sharp. Especially in the grand final. Yeah. 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 Yes. Yeah, the old shaved bonds, which is very strange. Yep. Perhaps. Yeah, honestly, even these first pre-season games against Gold Coast and then Sydney, just to see what sort of new thing we might not have expected. Dizzy Gardner up front is one of them. Rayner playing more midfield time would be great to see. Who knows? Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, if there's one hope for the year is I want to see, ideally none, but less. No, I don't want to say that. I want the best players out there. I don't want to see performances like the Port, the Hawthorn, the Gold Coast. We had 3 absolute mares last year. I want to bring that down to, like I said, ideally 0, but 1. 1 or 2, yeah. Just... And it's fine, you're going to lose home and away games. You're not going to go through the whole season and go undefeated Essendon 2000 style. I mean, but to put in those efforts... Yeah, exactly. To put in those efforts where you're going, who is this team? Less of those would be, top of the wish list. Yeah, it's a tough one because there's a lot of team like Carlton is obviously improved. Port have improved their list. Whether that translates to performance on the park, I don't know. Um, and I say improved compared to midway through the season last year, where they were 15th or whatever. They'd lost 6 or 7 on the trot, and then they clicked into gear, found what they were looking for, made a prelim. Um, yeah. Well, they got set. Sydney, 100%. Melbourne are going to have a point to prove. They're going to have a massive chip on their shoulder, straight sets, 2 years in a row. All this, questions about their culture and Clayton Oliver and all this sort of stuff. So that'll go one of 2 ways for them. They're going to come out like really, heads down, bum up, and really want to show the competition, hey, we're not here to fuck spiders. Or it'll get too much for them and they'll fall down the ladder to sort of 10th or 11th, where I've seen a lot of opinions have put them. Gold Coast are predicted to go into the 8. Collingwood are going to be there again, obviously. I think, the Bulldogs are a serious question mark. What are they going to do? So I would say, and I alluded to use the word comfortably, but top 4 for sure, and then go from there. Well, I mean, yeah, well, that's what happens when you bag for a team. Yeah. I th- yeah, I think you said top 4 you can afford to drop for like 5 or 6 maybe. Well, Oh, you know, well, I mean, that's another thing is Geelong. Like, are they going to? They're never out of the finals for long. You'd expect them to bounce back. Is it going to be this year? Are they going to languish around the middle of the table again? And Adelaide missed out by a dodgy umpire's call in finals, and they put in some really good performances last year against some top teams. So if they can lift themselves by 5-10% and clinch a few games that they lost by a bee's dick last year, then they'll be right up there again as well. So, and then Gold Coast as well. Yeah. Yeah. Well, because of the garbage around them, I suppose. Yeah. I don't see Fremantle making the 8. I think Hawthorn are a sneaky chance to perhaps not make the 8, but I think they might push up to sort of that 10th, 11th, 12th sort of position. I really... Yeah. Yeah. I agree completely. And we haven't even mentioned the other team that made a prelim in GWS as well, who really, we said it in the first half of last year, they're playing footy the right way, not getting the results, and then they got the results, and they were within a point of making a grand final. So, can they keep that going? Are they going to drop off? Are they going to improve, XYZ amount? It's, yeah. 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 I think it looks genuinely the most. People say it every year, the most even it's ever been, and I guess it just rings more and more true. But oh, yeah, they say like round 8 or something. Well, no, I mean round 15. I think round 15, Carlton or GWS were 15th, and they made they both made prelims. I can't remember which one it was, but they were both down there, and they just put it in a string of games. Suddenly, there they are. All right. Well, we've got some questions to kick off the year, and we've also introduced our sort of voicemail service this year, so you can feature on the show through our SpeakPipe account. Once again, all the links available at brisbanelionsfancast.com.au. Capish did such that to ask us a question. Capish. Yep, Cape-ish. So huge shout out. Thanks for getting involved. Yeah. Here's his question. All right. Well, apparently you couldn't hear that, which is a bit of a shame. I'll transcribe as best I can. Thanks for the kind words at the start. Thanks for the kind words at the start there, Capiche. Said he enjoys the show. His question is what? Well, you were meant to hear them then. His question is best case and worst case scenario for the first 5 rounds. So obviously he's saying best case is 5-0. He's saying worst case is 3-2, and he's picked us to lose to Freo and Melbourne, both away games. So he's got us winning all the home games. Yes, I mean those are. All right. Well, we got round 0, whatever it is, Carlton at home at the Gabba. Round 1 is Freo over in Perth. Yeah, an 11-day break or something. No, 9-day break. Then we've got the bye before Easter Thursday. Yeah, Collingwood Easter Thursday. Then North Melbourne at home, and then Melbourne down at the MCG on the 11th of April. I wouldn't be surprised if we drop one to Carlton or Collingwood. But, I mean, Carlton are going to want to come out firing. They kicked the first 5 last time they played at the Gabba. They're going to have a nice, healthy crowd there again. They would have been, that's the last game they played, is that prelim where they got shown up by us. It's their most recent feedback they're going to be working on. So, and same for us when we come up against Collingwood. We're going to come up with a huge chip on our shoulder, want to smack Collingwood after the grand final. Yeah. A trip to Perth. Yeah. Oof. Yeah. 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 Yeah, I mean, obviously 5-0 would... If we can come away from that stretch of games 5-0, happy days. Obviously happy days, and then we'd probably be sitting here going, all right, let's reassess what our expectations are a little bit. But yeah, to think we're going to go through that 5 and go lossless would be folly. I'd love to beat Melbourne at the MCG. If nothing else, yeah. Yeah, that was his worst case with losses to Freo and Melbourne. Yeah. 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 And we were 2-3 this time last year, I think. Was that right? 2-3 or 3-2? We lost to, and the Dogs. So yeah, 3-2 I think would be par. Anything above that is bonus points. But yeah, to think we're going to go 5-0 would temper our expectations here a little bit. But I'm here for it. Yeah, no, agreed completely. Yeah, 100%. A couple of other questions. We've got Anna on Twitter. Has there ever been a more low-key off-season? No boys messing up that we're aware of. No reported injuries, minimal roster changes. The calm before the storm. Are we the storm? So a bit foreboding there. As we sort of touched on before, Anna, it has been sort of normal since Fagan's taken over that it is pretty low key. No off-field issues. There hasn't sort of been one since Zorko's indiscretion with his anyway. No reported injuries. Well, McKenna, and I guess that's happened recently, and I guess the off-season surgeries to Neil and Berry and Dev as well. So they've had underdone pre-seasons, but yeah, low key is good. Low key is good. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Okay, probably. Yeah. I'm happy to be the Storm, if that's what we are. Yeah. And Nathan... Yes. Yeah, a lot of people without power, hopefully. Is that all fixed down there in Melbourne now? Sure. Nathan... Yes. Nathan LFC suggested topic of conversation. Should we be concerned we haven't locked away McCluggage away with a big deal? Not yet. If it gets to the bye and there's no news, then yeah, I think it's time to start going, uh-oh. But, I mean, you'd like to think Clug is going to stick around, surely. Yeah, I don't see why not. What do you say? If you had to put a dollar figure on it, would you say he's $1 million man, or sort of 900,000? Yeah. Well, comparatively, Neil's reportedly on $1 mil plus per year. Yeah. Yeah. And I think there would be clubs that would offer him $1 mil. Yeah. It's just whether that's a driving factor for him. I don't, and I'm not going to profess to know the first thing about Hugh McCluggage the person, but I don't think he would be driven by financial opportunities in the same way other people would be. I think he would be fine. What? I think he'd be on a comfortable enough salary, whatever he ends up on, that he's not living paycheck to paycheck. No. So unless he's got a hideous gambling addiction, I think he'll be alright. But once again, he doesn't seem like that sort of fella. Yeah. Yeah, probably. All right, well, that's it for questions that we've got through, and feel free to get them through each and every week. We'll put up a bit of a solicit across our socials, and if you want to get featured on the Speak Pipe, I'll try and make it so you can hear it next time as well. Can do. No, that's fine. Certainly can. I mean, we want to get people involved in the show this year a little bit more as well, and feel free to join the Discord. Once again, all the links are available at our website, brisbanelionsfancast.com.au. All right, we sort of talked about this off air before we started recording, but for 2024, who do you believe is going to be the breakthrough player? Yeah. Well, he got, what, half a dozen games or something last year? And yeah, which was strange. Yeah, it was very strange. Yep. I think now that he's had a year and a bit, I think Darcy Wilmot could really show something this year. And whether that's what I think or what I hope, I'm not sure. But I think Darcy Wilmot is going to turn a few heads without people going like, "Oh, this guy's the next best," the next Adam Sard or something like that. I think he's going to do a few more things throughout the year that are going to make people take notice. Yeah, just we saw flashes of it last year, just taking the game on a little bit. We saw it in his very first game in that elimination final against Richmond. A bit more of that. I'd be very happy to say that. Yes, I couldn't. I couldn't. Well, maybe he won't. There's a question about, what is Jasper Fletcher going to back up his first year as well? Is he going to succumb to the second year blues or whatever it may be? Well, if Sharpie's coming in, someone's got to go out, mate, and that's either Fletcher or Bez on the other wing, or Archie. Yeah. Well, we've got 2 preseason games to have a brief look. One of them being Thursday, Brighton Homes Arena against the Suns, and then when's the Sydney game? That's the following week. I think it's the Friday. That's right, the Friday the first, or maybe it's a Thursday again. Can't really remember. The following week. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, it would be. Yeah. Sure. So, 2 weeks of unofficial footy before it all kicks off. I'll be at the Gabba, round 1, round 0, whatever it is, against the Blues. It's going to be fantastic stuff. Can't believe we're here again. It took me so long to get hyped about footy again. Normally, anyone that knows me knows I'm the biggest nuff when it comes to footy, especially Brisbane, but it... Yeah. Yep. 100%. Look, and, there's already been, McStay ACL, Bailey Smith ACL, I think Hawthorn Blank did an ACL. There's been a few. Yeah, and it's just like, well, he won't be there for the first 2 weeks, so, good news for us, I suppose. But, we've had none of that, thankfully, knock on wood, that nothing happens over the next 2 weeks, so it was all wood once. I suppose so. Okay. But that's it, yeah. First, it's good to be back. Good to be back. That sucks. That's never a fun one. Yeah, that's grim. Yep. That's exactly how I did mine at Nines 2 years ago or something. Sucks. I, I believe you. I mean, I can believe that one. I can believe that. I don't believe that. No. Not for a second. Brisbane Lions Fancast.com.au. I'm pointing to the website on the video here. Brilliant. Go to that. Join the Patreon. We will chuck this first video up of the podcast at our YouTube page as well. So Brisbane Lions Fancast. All the links will be available at the website. And once again, a massive shout out to hoponbrewerytours.com.au and Crisp Communications, crispcoms.co for jumping on board season 2024. It's good to be back. Can't wait to get involved with you guys again this year. And we've got a double pass for the Q Clash up for grabs straight off the bat. All the details for that will be available across our socials and the website and all that sort of stuff. So, bloody ripper. Yeah. First look at, is Darcy Gardner going to kick a bag? Yeah. That's another thing. If you're looking for a cheaper KO, I did post something on the Brisbane Lions Fancast on Instagram and social. It is cheaper if you buy a Brisbane Lions digital membership. Most people are sort of across this by now. It works out to be like just over $20 a month. If you get KO via the Brisbane Lions digital membership, you get 12 months free of KO. And now that KO is going up to $35 a month for the basic plans, save yourself a bit of cash long term. Bit of a bite up front, but long term, there are savings. Look at us, financial advice now. Fair enough. Relatively tame. Yeah, relatively tame. Well, that's something we could potentially do on our Patreon. Hey, we could start selling merch through Patreon. Yeah, it's an option. You did not know. That's fine. Alright, check us out, brisbanelionsfancast.com.au. Join the Patreon, join the Discord, follow us on socials, or just listen to us, whoever you've been listening to us for the last 12 months, Spotify, Apple, whatever. They can be mean. There's one thing you know about people. Don't worry about it. It appears that way, yes.